Indian Constitution, it is the duty of each citizen to develop the scientific temper, humanism and the spirit of inquiry and reform. Yet, superstitious practices are abound in India, including among the highly educated. Why is it so hard to remove superstitions? Can social persuasion and ethics help remove it? Examine 150 words by Hindu The Wired. www.insightsindia.com 16 www.insightsays.com. Answer: superstitions are followed everywhere. No country, no matter its scientific prowess, has conquered superstition. Superstitions are harmful and harmless. For instance, harmful acts like sati, tradition of tantra followed by godman affects the lives of innocent girls show that with proper empowerment, science, and strengthening of values these can be eradicated. Why is it so hard to remove superstitions? In India, many people link religion with superstitions. Many believe age-old beliefs as the truth without necessary rational outlook. When some scientists and well-educated person believes in superstitions, it gives legitimacy to the people to follow it. Also in India, still many are uneducated. The development and fostering of scientific temper is neglected entirely in Indian education system where reasoning is put behind. Moreover, people tend to look for God to get their problems solved, especially in rural areas where adequate public health infrastructure is unavailable. Sometimes people who are facing problems and have personal issues, etc., are superstitious as they want faster resolutions. Even hardcore cynics can occasionally fall prey to superstitions like, if the stakes are high and the effort implemented is low. Many rational people say they don't believe, but they also don't want to take a chance. People prefer to take the safer route, believing in superstitions in order to avoid any adversity, harm or injury. This is the reason why most superstitions are associated with fear of some harm that may strike the person if he or she does or fails to do a particular thing. It's an easy way to increase the feeling you're in control. False cause bias is the backbone of most superstitions. The black cat crossed Panel's path when he was on his way to work one morning. Soon after that he met with an accident and broke his leg. As he lay dismayed in the hospital room, he was convinced that the cat caused the accident. The need to fill in the gaps. Human beings have a strong desire to explain things and fill in the gaps. And when we can't explain things with reason, we resort to superstition. One of these mechanisms is blaming external factors for the shortcomings that we're personally responsible for. It's 1,000 times easier to blame bad luck if one fails in an endeavor than to admit that the fault lay in their own thinking or their methods. Social persuasion and ethics can remove it. Awareness campaigns against dangerous superstitions along with better education and scientific outreach may have some impact but will be a slow process. People are generally better persuaded by the reasons which they have themselves discovered than by those which have come into the mind of others. Such a strategy may be more successful. Science journalists have the potential to educate the readers on developing a scientific temper. When making decisions, rely on common sense and a sound pattern of reasoning. However, social persuasion alone would not suffice, as seen below. Larger efforts by the state or humongous social movements are required to eradicate superstitious practices. For example, practices such as sati were not eradicated by persuasion but due to the enormous efforts put in by social reformers and ultimately by legislation. Persuasion is an excellent tool, but is limited in its scope and reach. Finally, educationists and governments must ensure that people are suitably educated to develop scientific temper and rational thinking. Topic: Ethical issues in international relations. Q1 comment on the relevance of Einstein's argument that peace cannot be kept by force and it can only be achieved by understanding for today's international relations. 150 words. General answer: if two countries don't understand one another, there cannot be a peace. There will be misunderstandings leading to friction, which leads to heated arguments which will eventually lead to conflict. If they don't understand each other's values, motivations, likes and dislikes, there is little chance for effective communication. www.insightsindia.com 17 www.insightsays.com. This attitude is endangering the world peace in the following way: excessive reliance on rhetorics which serve no purpose except escalating the conflict. For instance, North Korean crisis. Rising wave of protectionism threatening economic peace manifested in recent WTO negotiations and anti-migrant feeling. For instance, Brexit. endangering environmental governance, which in turn is endangering the very human existence. For instance, U.S. withdrawal from Paris Climate Agreement, derailing peace negotiations. For instance, the recent U.S. decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital has decimated the long and hard-earned two-state solution to Israel-Palestine conflict. Protracted conflicts, for instance, Syrian civil war. Lack of consensus on tackling emerging issues, for instance, non-adoption of CCIT Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. Geopolitical wars. So enforcement of one's will by force of arms might suppress resistance of the other for a short period, but there will always be a return to conflict. The cycle will continue until an understanding is reached. The world leaders have to understand that such narrow attitude to serve one's country is disastrous for the whole of humanity in longer run, and countries are there to uphold the welfare of whole humanity. The leaders need to understand that they owe a peaceful, prosperous, environmentally stable, safe, and secure planet to their future generations. Statesmanship behavior need to be inculcated to view every issue from larger perspective of global welfare, not from a narrow prism. An attitude of tolerance, compassion, and inculcation of emotional intelligence to understand others' viewpoint is necessary. Outright rejection of use of force to establish eternal peace. The first step in this direction can be to join recently floated Total Nuclear Prohibition Treaty. An attitude of principled distance from intervening in every crisis militarily, and inculcating the maxim that reconciliation is more rewarding than retribution. To discuss the ethical considerations that should be emphasized by international community in dealing with the refugee crises across the world. 100